As we come down the stairs, the first thing you see is this doorway without a door. And that's because this area here, from these metal supports all the way to the back and side walls, all of this space used to be a separate, unfinished room. There used to be a wall of drywall here, and the exterior walls from here, back and around, all the way to the laundry room, those walls were all exposed concrete. When I bought the house in 2009, this little unfinished room back here had built-in wood shelves all through it in rows, like an old library. It was pretty musty and nasty, so I stripped it all out and recycled the boards into a loft in the garage. That was like literally the first thing I did when we bought the house, so we'd have somewhere to store the empty boxes and totes as we moved in. Eventually I decided to store unused gear and other junk in there, but I mainly just used this main area out here. You can see even now how little space there is between the big kit and those metal support posts where that interior wall used to be. So it wasn't very comfortable trying to squeeze back there or even really getting the big kit to fit in the space very well. I opened the room up as best as I could by getting rid of some of the other built-in features that were here when I bought the place. Back behind the big kit, where my monitors and speakers are now, that whole area back there was covered by wall-mounted cabinets, and underneath them were 3 countertops over 3 storage cabinet units. This little section right here is actually the center section from all of that, but I moved the rest of it out to the garage. But before I moved it all out to the garage, that stuff was all in that storage room here, up on concrete blocks. On the other end of the main section of the room, originally there was a built-in wet bar back there with some track lighting over it. I pulled that bar out immediately to open up that back area, but I was never really able to orient the big kit into that space without cramping access to the laundry room. You can see here where this support beam is, this is the same line where that original little wall was. So it really didn't solve the issue of fitting in. It just kind of moved the cramped space from the back of the room to this part of the room, and it just kind of complicated access to the laundry room. So the big kit didn't really fit back here very well. Sometimes I'd set up a smaller kit back here, but I would usually try to keep that space open for the rest of the band, for singer, guitar player, whoever. Fast forward from 2009 when I bought the house to 2018, because that's when I noticed a crack forming in the wall of the laundry room. You can see there's another door frame here, also without a door, leading into the laundry room area, and that space was also unfinished. It didn't have very good lighting in there. I didn't go in there very often. But one day I happened to notice this little crack in the exposed concrete, and there was some efflorescence that I didn't like the look of. And so I started really examining the wall. I pulled out the cheap bookcases that we had up against the wall in the storage room area, just holding, household junk. And I discovered that crack was forming horizontally through the entire wall. So if you're not familiar with what I'm describing with foundation cracks, this was your typical hydrostatic pressure crack, which is caused by groundwater and precipitation water pushing up against each other and up against the foundation of your house. I never had any problems with water actually getting in. I did find a little bit of mold when I tore the room apart. But I never really had any water damage or anything significant. And I've come to believe that the excess water that was forming against the foundation might have been related to the removal of a big tree that used to be right off the corner of the house. I think when they took that tree out, it just wasn't drinking as much water, and so more water could collect around the foundation of the house. So finding that crack was somewhat alarming, and I decided I needed to stop it and fix it before it became an actual problem, with any water getting in. So I decided to have the house waterproofed. So in the winter of 2018, I put all my stuff in storage and I demolished the basement. I ripped out the carpet, which was this that's still on these stairs here. I ripped out all the drywall, I ripped out all the framing, ripped out that stupid little wall in the middle of the room, I ripped out that track lighting, the wall sconces, all of it. I put everything in a couple of bagsters for waste management to come pick up, and I brought in a waterproofing company. And so on the inside of the basement here, they jackhammered out the edges of the concrete floor, lowered the water table, installed French drains along the lengths of the room. They installed a sump pump with a battery backup that pumps water away from the house. That's back in the corner there by that little closet area. I installed a whole house humidistat system, and that creates a difference in air pressure between the upper floors of the house and the basement. And so that air pressure differential keeps the air recycling throughout the house several times a day at a set humidity level. Outside the house, they excavated and patched and sealed any cracks that were discovered in the exterior foundation. All that stuff was sealed and patched with mastic, and then new plastic sheeting went around the foundation. Then I hired another company to come in and refinish the basement. I got these dimmable LEDs installed. One switch here controls the smaller back area of the room, that former storage area, and the other switch controls the larger main area. And that main area switch is also on a three-way switch at the top of the stairs. So you can turn on the main part of the room or turn it off from the top of the stairs, which is kind of nice if your hands are full. The LEDs here are 5000K full spectrum white daylight. I have really sensitive eyes, so I try to keep the windows covered and the dimmers down most of the time. But if I'm filming down here or I need more light, I can uncover the windows and I can push those dimmers up, and it gets super bright down here. I replaced the windows. I had the gas and the water meters hidden inside that little closet in the back. And I took the opportunity to install a couple of new electrical circuits. I knew that some of the basement circuits were shared with outlets in the kitchen, because if my wife ran the food processor while a guitar amp was plugged into certain outlets down here, the amp would literally scream. And the old dimmer switch that was down here would make the ground hum that you could hear through some of the amps. It would make that ground hum modulate. If the light was cranked up bright, the pitch that you would hear would be higher, and then if you roll the light down, made it darker, the pitch would decrease. And so there was definitely some noise in the electrical system. And so I took the opportunity presented by the rebuild to put a couple of new electric circuits into the breaker box, which is located behind that mirror back there. That proved to be a super handy decision, because just last year I ran a new line out to my garage, a new electrical line out to my garage, and I was able to make use of the new circuitry that I had put down here to feed that box out there. So now I've got dedicated circuits down here with no noise, no ground hum, and I've also got new power out to the garage. So once the room was finished, I just painted it this basic white, and I got a bunch of carpet tiles. These carpet tiles are just basic rubber-backed low pile tiles that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. I ordered the square footage I needed, plus a couple extra boxes, and then I grouped all the different patterns into stacks, and I calculated how much square footage and percentage of the room each stack or each style could complete. And I started sketching out patterns. Originally I wanted to do like a Fibonacci inspired design, but I couldn't really get it to fit right within the dimensions of the room, and my wife recommended I look at quilting patterns. So I looked at some quilting designs, and I came up with this layout, 3 different squares with a repeating pattern around them, and then I made this little divider section in the middle of the room as the entryway, and there's a border around the perimeter of the room as well. I really like how it came out because it defines the sections of the room. And ultimately, it's just a grid. The tiles are 20 inches by 20 inches, so it's easy to mimic a small stage for rehearsing. Originally, I planned on installing some colored sound foam around the room, 2 or 3-inch thick strips of like block foam. We're going to go into the upper perimeter where the walls meet the ceiling. And I wanted to put some bass traps in the corners. But the room honestly sounds pretty good. So I haven't gotten around to doing that acoustic treatment. The room has a nice, bright, hard reflection quality that I really dig, especially for the concert toms. So I'm not in a huge rush to get the sound foam. I've got other projects that are higher priority. So for now it's untreated, but it honestly might just stay that way. Back along this wall are my Lisa Frank pictures. I made a video about these, and if you go to it, you'll find a link where you can see all of these pictures up close. On this other wall, I just recently put up these pages from last year's Alphonse Mucha calendar. This space here is going to have 4 chalkboard prints of different drum patents that my wife got me a couple of years ago. I'm finally getting around to getting those framed. So I think they're going to go right here because this is sort of the visual focal point of the room as you enter and turn into it. I've got some other art projects I keep saying I'll do something with, so the walls are a work in progress. So that's the room and the rebuild and all of that. I'll do a quick walk around and just tell you what's what, but I'll get more into all of that during the signal path segment. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around and check out that segment. Starting under the stairs here, I've got this 28 by 14 inch shell with some gig bags stuffed inside. I've got another 28 by 14 with the Slingerland kit. And when I got those 2 shells, the idea was to make a double bass kit with 2 28s, just because I thought that would be kind of stupid and kind of fun. But I only got around to rebuilding one of them so far. Next to that shell are some storage units with art supplies, extension cords, a million kinds of tape, other personal junk. Next to the love seat, I've got the 28-inch Ludwig timpani, this electric ukulele, and a little portable multi-channel PA. Then I've got a couple of PA speakers here. The bigger one on the bottom gets the main output from the big 8-channel PA in the back of the room. Its counterpart here on the left gets the monitor output from that PA. So by panning the input at the PA between the main and the monitor lines, these 2 PA cabinets back here behave like a set of stereo speakers. There's another pair of these, in the back area there with my keyboard and the computer. So it's really a 4-speaker system. What's nice about having the bigger pair out here is that we can have like a little dance party in this area. The smaller PA cabinets go to this little phonic PA, and that can be used for a singer or during a band practice, or for any other little purpose you might need a small PA. So that little PA, in conjunction with the other little self-contained PA unit back there by the timpani, if you group that stuff together, you got a nice, really nice little portable setup. Okay, next up we've got the Meinl djembe, the slap top cajon, my Turkish copper darbuka, various mics and stands. These 2 mics right here, the Shure and the Sterling Audio, these aren't mine, they belong to my singer, but the MXL V900 dynamic version here, this one is mine. This here is an iClip for mounting an iPhone. It's really nice, gives you a lot of range of motion. But it's kind of expensive. If you're on a budget, you can do pretty much the exact same thing with a standard microphone clip mount. This iPhone here is in an OtterBox, so it's not really getting squeezed. But the clip, it holds on just fine, and these are like a couple of bucks. So next up, you got the turntable and my little turntable preamp. And this little tripod here holds one of the other iPhones for video recording. It's got a nice wide-angle lens on it, and it gets its audio track from the Zoom LiveTrack L20 through this iRig Stream device. My other video camera, another iPhone mounted over here, also uses an iRig Stream for its audio channel. In all fairness, I have had some glitchiness from the iRig Streams, so I also record the mix at the mixing board. So in the event that the audio track from the iRig fails, I can still pull up the original audio files off the recorder and just, sync it all together in post. So coming back here to the work desk, I've got my Roland Juno G keyboard, 3 monitors, and a Boss BR8 recorder. The BR8 uses zip disks, so I don't really record with it anymore, but I do use it as a processor because it has a ton of editable effects. On the left of the work area, I have my printer, the left speaker monitor, a crate full of manuals, and the other speaker connected to the big PA's monitor line. On the right, I have my Behringer mini amp headphone amplifier, a Pioneer stereo amp and distributor, the right speaker monitor, another crate. This one's full of office supplies and just personal junk. And underneath all of that is the PA speaker connected to the PA's main output line. I've also got 2 Korg D888 recorders, the 8-channel phonic PA, a Boss ME30 processor, a Alesis 12R mixer, 2 TC Helicon harmonizers, and a stereo DI box. This will also run in a mono mode. Again, I'll talk more about all of that stuff in the signal chain segment, but I will show you real quickly how I have all this set up for recording vocals. I've got the vocal mic coming in here on channel 8, and then it goes right back out on this direct output jack into the first channel of the Alesis 12R. And the Alesis 12R has 2 aux sends per channel. One of those sends is pre-fader, the other is post-fader. So I send that dry vocal track that's being recorded on the D888 here into the first channel, and then through the post-fader aux into the DI box. And there it gets duplicated and sent to the 2 harmonizers. The red line here goes to harmonizer A, and the blue line goes to harmonizer B. Harmonizer A is usually set to high and low octaves, and I can run a little pitch correction or tone control. And if I don't want to feed it the guitar track or a keyboard track to create the harmony voices, I can just manually tell it what key and mode I'm in. Harmonizer B is an older model, and it does not have quite as many features. It doesn't have that like manual mode for the keys and the modes. But I can use it to add thirds or fourths or fifths or whatever happens to sound best. The outputs from the harmonizers then come back into the Alesis 12R on channels 4 and 5 for harmonizer A, and channels 6 and 7 for harmonizer B. Then I can use the other aux send, the pre-fader aux, to send the original dry vocal, that's there still on channel 1, and the harmonized pairs, they're on 4, 5, 6, and 7. I can aux all of those vocals out to the ME30 or to the BR8 using that other aux. That signal then comes back into the Alesis 12R on the stereo aux return, so I can adjust that amount with this knob right here. That entire vocal mix now can then be sent back to the Korg D888 for recording, or to a PA, or wherever else you might want to send it. In a live situation, I would just skip using the D888 and I'd plug that vocal mic right into channel 1. The singer can then easily pull up the patches that we build in the harmonizers and on the ME30. And if they need to roll off those effects, they can just roll back the expression pedal and click the harmonizers off with the foot switches. So it's very easy to turn it on and off. What I really like about this little rig is that you can get a polished, pretty, very full sound that's going to be identical whether you're recording or performing live. It's going to be the same sound. Okay. Lastly, we have the Allen & Heath Z14 board, all this rack gear down here, the Zoom Live Track L20, the Alesis DM5, TC Electronic Nova delay, and everything that's on the big kit. I used to use a Z14 as a monitor mixer because it has a bunch of routing options, but now it's processing my overheads and my kick drum through all the rack mounted gear down below. The 5 overhead mics I'm using come into the Z14 and get processed through their insert effect chains. The 3 MXL mics, they get compression, EQ, and reverb, and the far left and far right 80 mics They just get a little bit of compression. And then all of that gets routed to the L20 as a stereo pair through aux sends 1 and 2. Then they come into the L20 on channels 1 and 2. The kick mic also gets compression and EQ and reverb. It also gets a noise filter, and its signal comes out of the Z14 on aux 3, and it comes into the live track on channel 5. So I'm going to pause here before I get carried away into the signal chain stuff. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the room and the history and taking a little look at some of my other stuff. I hope you'll stick around and come back because next I'm going to show you all the stuff on these shelves. We'll take a look at the Red Flower kits, the Slingerland Timpani Tom kit, my snare drums, percussion gear. We'll take a look at the wave drum and the triggers. And then finally I'll come back around to the signal chain and the tour of the big kit. So again, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next segment.